Hi, I'm Ksenia Yasnova, Public Relations Specialist of the company Rosco. There can be several reasons for dismissal of a migrant. How to competently and quickly dismiss a migrant so as not to receive fines. Stay tuned to find out. The procedure for dismissal of a migrant differs from that of a Russian citizen. The employer must be guided by the provisions of labor legislation and also by the requirements of a special law on the rights of foreigners in Russia. A migrant can be dismissed both on general grounds and on special ones.
How to dismiss a migrant on general grounds?
There are no specific features of the dismissal of a migrant compared to the dismissal of Russian workers. It happens that a migrant disappears in one fine moment. In this case, the employer may fire such an employee for absence without good reason for more than 4 hours in a row. After compiling all the necessary documentation, the employer makes entries in the workbook, the migrant's personal card. In this case, the employer must send information about this fact to the Territorial Department of the Ministry of Internal Affairs.
How to fire a migrant on special grounds?
Features of the dismissal of a migrant are related to their status, and a migrant can have 3 of them: temporary staying, temporary residing, and permanently residing in Russia. In some cases that we will list later, a migrant must first be suspended from work and only then fired. Firstly, expiration of a patent or work permit. A patent is not needed for migrants who come from the EA/EU countries. It is issued for a fixed period. A foreigner can overstay a patent. In such a situation, the employer must first remove him from work until the renewal or reissuance of a new patent. Secondly, expiration of the TRP. Thirdly, expiration of the VHI policy or termination of the contract for the provision of medical services to the migrant. These 2 grounds are relevant for migrants temporarily residing in Russia, except for HQS. Lastly, expiration of the residence permit. This basis is relevant for migrants permanently residing in Russia. In all these cases, the migrant is suspended from work for up to 1 month. If after a month the documents are not reissued or extended, then the employee is fired. Also, dismissal through suspension from work is possible if the employer itself has suspended or expired a permit to hire foreigners. The most common grounds for dismissal without prior suspension from work of migrants are cancellation of a work permit or a patent, cancellation of TRP or residence permit. Cancellation does not involve any delay but means the immediate dismissal of the migrant. Bringing the number of migrants in accordance with the allowance share for ACWED, NACE. The government regulates the flow of foreign labor in order to avoid an oversupply or shortage in the labor market. For this purpose, quotas for professionals are established for each subject of the Russian Federation. The shares of foreigners are given in as a percentage depending on the business of the company. And if the company's share of migrants exceeds the allowable percentage, then it must fire the migrant. On this basis, it is impossible to dismiss a HQS, foreigners temporarily residing in Russia with a residence permit, as well as foreigners who are citizens of the EA/EU.
What risks will the employer have for the wrong dismissal of a migrant?
The employer must report the fact of dismissal of the migrant within 3 working days to the Territorial Office of the Ministry of International Affairs. Ignoring this obligation or violating the deadline will cost the employer dearly. For the company, a fine from 400,000 to 800,000 rubles is possible. If a migrant has an expired patent or work permit and the employer did not remove or dismiss him in a timely manner, then the amount of the fine is from 250,000 to 800,000 rubles. For Moscow or St. Petersburg, the fine reaches 1 million rubles. What's more, if an employer incorrectly makes an entry in a migrant workbook, they can be fined from 30,000 to 50,000 rubles. I'm glad you watched the video till the end. I'm Ksenia Yasnova. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment and Rosco specialists will kindly answer them. And of course, subscribe to our channel, where you'll find lots of useful information, not only for your business, but also for yourself. Stay in touch, stay with Rosco.